Can you share some things that you've learned, or some tricks or some techniques or some tools over the years to kind of get you to where you are emotionally, grasping that joy that you were missing? What are the things that you did?
Well, I had to really, so when when you're in that space and you're mentally and emotionally telling yourself that you're not good enough, and and you're in that pathway of telling yourself all these, if you fail at something, like, yep, see, like, I'm just can't do anything right, and that I had to consciously stop myself from doing that to myself.
Wow.
I consciously would have to go, you know what? I am a good person. I am great. I am worthy. And because these are beliefs that you take on from these people who want you to believe this way about yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's how they disarm you. That's how they take away your personality. That's how they take away who you are. And so I had to consciously make that effort to stop the negative self-talk and turn it into positive. And this was a thing that I noticed with my daughter, because when she had split up with her boyfriend, she was posting all this negative stuff. And I was just like, you got to stop. Start posting positive stuff, please. No more negative stuff. And when she started doing that, she started to feel better.
Absolutely.
But it's a conscious thing. You can't, I was like, no one can help me, or I can't do this. That's how I used to think. I can't do this. It's too hard. Until I, said to myself, like, you're just miserable. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I just changed the way that I talk to myself about myself.
I love that. Absolutely. So what does that look like exactly? Because a lot of times people think, like, if they're not feeling it immediately, then the way that they feel is truth. So I know what you're saying, but to kind of like, really detail it, what does that look like when you're feeling down, you're kind of going down in a slump? What exactly are you saying it internally? Are you writing it? Are you just thinking it? How do you flip? How do you pivot?
Well, I would basically sit there and have a conversation with myself.
Yeah.
So, like, I had really bad anxiety, which was from triggers of, anything that would happen. If I failed at something, I'd just start going into the process of, oh my God, I'm just an idiot, I'm stupid, having all these negative beliefs, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and all that. And so that's what I would say to myself, just, okay, stop. And then I'd have this whole conversation, Kimberley, this is not serving you purpose. You've got to get out of this. You've got to stop doing that. And then, and even when I'm telling myself that, I'm worthy, I didn't feel good about it. I still wasn't convinced. But the more I did it, it takes a while.
Yeah.
Because what I learned about how my brain worked and how the neurons in my brain, it was like every time I told myself a negative thing, it was like I was just digging a trench in my brain to believe that more and more and believe it more and more. And so when you have to stop yourself and start thinking positive, it's like you're filling the trench up and you're smoothing it over. And then, then you can come out at the other end. And it can take a long time. It can take, but I mean, once I started to realize what I was doing and how I could change it, it didn't take that long at all.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do, because I don't want women to sit there and think and swim in this horrible space for 15, 20 years of their life.
Yep.
Because of some person that treated them wrongly.
Yep.
That's not their fault.
Yep.
It's, and who they fell in love with didn't turn out to be who they wanted. and who they dreamed and who, you know, and even the father of their children. You know, and that's the hardest part, is because you fall in love with these people, you have children with these people, and so then you feel like you're doing your kids an injustice by not being with them, and so you do it for them, but in the meantime, you know, they're watching it all and they're absorbing it all and they're learning this pattern. Oh, this is what love must be. This is what love must look like.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's the hardest part, is saying, no, I can't do this, and I can't allow my children to see this. And, you know, whether it's something going on or whether it's something going on with you, because even when you're not with that person, the aftermath of that, you can still treat yourself badly, and they will watch that as they grow older. Oh, so that's when someone's mean to you, that's how you treat yourself, instead of being strong.
Wow.
And doing it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How do you decide to show up for your world, like on a daily basis?
My children. And because I was told by my mum, all as a child and a teenager, that I would be a terrible mother all the time. I'd do something at home and, you know, like I wasn't allowed to cook. I had to clean, but I wasn't allowed to cook because if I cooked, I made a mess, and stuff like that. And she would, you know, if I stuffed up something, she'd be like, oh, you know, I couldn't have a puppy. You can't look after a puppy. Why can't I look after a puppy? I'm sure I'm capable. No, you'll be a terrible mother. You'll make a terrible mother. And then when I had my son, she would come into my house and she would, you know, like, for example, I might have just fed him and he's, you know, got his bib on and he's got food all over his face, and she knocks on the door and she comes in and she's like, oh, look at him, he's filthy, you know. And I could just like, I just fed him and you just walked in the door, and she would turn this whole thing into how inadequate I was as a mother. And so then she would validate to me that, oh, I must be a terrible mother because she told me all my life that I was going to be a terrible mother.
Yeah.
Like now I'm a great mum, and I know that because, you know, I have great relationships with my kids, and my kids' friends love coming to my house, and they love spending time with me, and they all call me Mama Kim, and they all like talk to me about their problems, and, you know, and they respect and listen to my advice, and, you know, and I give them a shoulder to cry on, and I support them. And I might say, look, you know, you made a mistake. Don't beat yourself up about it, or, you know, whatever. And so for me, that's how I show up, because I know that all the things that she told me that I was, and all my ex-partners that told me what I was, I am nothing like that.
I love that. That's
you
so
know,
awesome.
I always believed I was. Yay.
That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you. That must feel so good.
It does. It does. And, you know, like I said, you know, I've got 3 girls, and I can't let them, they have to be strong. I have to teach them how to be strong. And, you know, it's a big, bad world out there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Do you mind talking a little bit about boundaries? I know that we've gone in and out of it, you know, quite a bit.
Yeah.
But for those that don't know, you know, what is that word boundaries, and why are they so important?
Well, they're important because, you know, it's like if you have a discussion with, you know, you want to go and do something, and your partner just like, no, you're not doing that. And you'd be like, well, why? I'm not doing anything wrong. You know, I'm allowed to have friends. I can go out to lunch with this person. Like, what do you think I'm going to be doing? And they will turn it into something completely that it's not. And so, you know, for example, like with my ex, I used to, you know, go and buy lunch at the shop. And if I took too long in his eyes, I was doing something wrong. I was meeting someone, I was cheating, I was doing this, I was doing that. And I never used to say, and if I tried to defend myself, it would be shut down. And so I didn't know how to articulate that strength in communication to go, you know what? you're wrong. I would end up cowering, and I'd be like, okay, I would, just agree, not agree to disagree. I would just agree, just to keep the peace, just to let it go. And with my mum, so she was stepping over the boundaries as far as, communicating with my husband, and with my children, and I would let her do it because I didn't want to upset her. I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want any drama. So I said nothing. And then once I started to actually put my foot down and start voicing, no, you're not going to do that, and and things like that, she didn't like that. So it did become a little bit harder, because when you defy someone, especially a narcissist, they start to see that you see that they're full of it, if you know what I mean. Like you're discovering them, and so they don't like that. And so you're challenging them because they like you to be submissive.
Yeah.
I was, submissive. And I guess a boundary is, like, when you're walking around on eggshells, because you're not speaking up.
Yeah.
You're not, because you're frightened of what you're going to lose, the repercussions of what's going to happen. If I stand up for myself, I might get a smack in the face, or I might get punished in some way. So you don't do it.
Yep.
And so with, I love teaching boundaries because, for me, it be a series of questions. You can find out a lot about someone, even when you first meet them, by just the questions that you ask.
Wow.
Is there contradictions? Are they saying one thing but really meaning another?
Wow.
Did they say this, but 10 minutes ago they said this? Just by the questions that you ask. And, and then you have to have like your values. What do you value the most? What are your opinions about life? What are your wants? What are your needs? And so most of the time we know what they are, but when someone comes in and stomps on them, that's when we know what they are, but we say nothing. And so what I teach is have them almost set in stone. Know exactly, I'm not going to be treated like this. I will not have anyone. When I met my husband, I was like, no man will ever treat me like that again. Yeah. And, and that was a rule. That was a stipulation. And I was going to stand by that.
Yeah.
Because I'd learned the lesson, and, I was going to voice that, and that was the way it was going. And I didn't want to have someone that had children. I mean, I was very lucky. I was 30 when I met my husband. He didn't have children, and neither did I. So I was lucky. But that was one of my boundaries. That was one of my stipulations, of that I was not going to date anyone or have anyone that had children. I was not going to take on that baggage again.
Yeah.
I'd already done it twice, and I wasn't going to do it again.
Yeah.
So, boundaries are very complex, but then you have to know how to assert boundaries even with friends. Is this friend starting to take advantage of me?
Yeah.
I do all these things for my friend. Will my friend do those things for me? And so, it doesn't take long in a friendship to work out whether or not they do or they don't. I mean, I've had friendships for 10 years where then all of a sudden they've changed. I'll be like, hang on a minute. Okay, yep, see you later.
Wow.
And it's very disheartening and it's very hurtful, but I don't allow that to inhibit me as who I am as a person anymore, because I would take it personally. I'd always take it personally, and I don't anymore, because I just think, well, I'm not going to give, and reciprocate and give back or communicate with me, or and boundaries are all about communication.
Yes.
Asking questions, talking. We all have a different perception of the world. We all have different opinions. I mean, I have 6 people in my house, and we all have different opinions of things, and I allow them all to say what they want to say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, don't step on anybody's boundaries. That's your opinion. You're allowed to have it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I try not to control that. I my kids know my boundaries as far as being a mum and living in my house,
Yeah.
but I also have to respect their boundaries
Yep.
and their opinions of the world,
Yep.
and they're individuals.
Yep.
I might not agree with them, but that's what they are. And so I also used to have a ladder. So I'd have like, a ladder of people. Okay, well, I'm a little bit sus of you here. And then I'd have someone who's up here who's highly respectful of me, who, reciprocates what I do for them. But then they might do something that, out of the blue that I think, oh, okay. So then I'll just bring them down a little bit to this part of the ladder. And then they have to earn that,
Got
that, that
Yeah.
way up the ladder.
Yeah. I love that.
And boundaries are like not the same for everybody. So that's where my ladder comes in. It's like, well, okay, so in the time and the moment that something happens, if you need to put a boundary in, who is it? What are they doing that's upsetting you?
Yeah.
How can you articulate or communicate that? And what is it that, do you want from that person?
Exactly.
And so I try to break it all down and do it in a process where they can go, right, well, when my husband says this to me, I'm not going to put up with blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And when my friend does this to me, I'm not going to say yes just to please them because, they want me to take them to the shop every day. And then, well, I've got something that I have to do, but I have to give up that to do that for them. And so you go through the people and you know who the people are.
Yeah.
You know who the people are that you have to set boundaries with.
Yeah.
But if you break it all down, and it's all about communication, questioning yourself,
Yep.
asking yourself the questions.
Yep.
What is the answer to that question?
Yep.
And then communicating that with that person. And if they don't like what you've said, that's on them, because your self-worth comes by allowing how you will allow them to treat you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.